talk today about a web of concepts and how they relate and how they are playing out in my life in a deliberate way. If you've seen any of my other content, you know that that's a fairly common way for me to start a thing out, because I tend to think in sort of these webs of interconnected ideas, and as those connections strengthen, it gets to a point where I can take a shot at like turning it into a linear narrative, either as a blog post or a video. And that's what we're going to try to do today. So what we're going to talk about is the topic of habit and ritual, and how being a person who ADHD and autism are descriptors that apply to the way my brain works. These things all come together and play out in how I am trying to use habit and ritual to reinforce behaviors and activities that I want to be doing more of, and I want to be doing with more regularity. So habit is a topic that has come up. You'll see it like in all of the self-help and productivity kind of spaces, YouTube channels and TikTokers and everything talking about. And there was an interesting bit of discourse around habit and reaction to books like Atomic Habits that all have this chapter in them about, or this intro piece in them about how if you do a behavior often enough, whether that is, every day for 30 days, every day for 14 days, there's always a number that somebody cites. If you do them repeatedly, that they will become automatic. And the explanation for that automatic thing is the dopamine reward system in your brain kicking in and giving you a Pavlovian response to turn it into an automatic thing. And anybody who's done any digging into ADHD, as soon as you hear the dopamine cycle being cited, that tends to set off a flag that says, oh, that might not work for me. And sure enough, if you talk to enough ADHD folks about habit formation, they will say that they really struggle with habit formation. And some of the discourse around this topic that happened a while back on TikTok was describing what automatic meant for people who do not have ADHD. And the response from the ADHD crowd was, oh, it's worse than we thought. Because the folks who don't struggle were describing how there's no conscious thought when a habit is executed. When a habit is triggered and then happens, it is done without conscious thought. And a lot of the folks with ADHD said that the things they had thought they had turned into habits are still checklists or their equivalent, something like that. It is still always a conscious thought. And that the only things they can think of, they get close to or are automatic, as in there is no conscious thought, are things that are negative around drug and alcohol abuse, smoking, food. They're all things that, and this is something that is in the ADHD literature, that when you can't get a reward from dopamine, ADHD folks will often seek out a reward from some other neurotransmitter. And that's how you end up with the folks who will do like the skydiving and other adrenaline-seeking activities, because adrenaline can be a substitute. It's folks who will take chaotic jobs. In the book ADHD 2.0 talks about how many folks who are especially late diagnosed ADHD have chosen careers that are sort of toxic and chaotic because the cortisol and adrenaline around it, the stress hormone and the urgency, will substitute for dopamine, and it's the only jobs that they find themselves able to pay enough attention to do well enough to succeed in, because that sort of substitute chemistry kicks in. And then that's also true of the people like literally self-medicating by taking external substances that give you a reward. And so people either are doing behaviors that give them the neurochemical reward that they're after, or they will seek the chemical in the outside world. And that's also why the prescription stimulants are useful for a lot of folks with ADHD, is that the combination of the chemistry can get enough of a substitute that they can concentrate on enough things and get enough improvement that life gets better. In my own experience, it's better, but it doesn't solve it. But I also have that experience of that none of my habits are automatic. They are all still conscious. And even the negative habits are sort of a conscious recognition as they are happening that's upsetting, that I don't like that it's happening in many, many cases. But the brain just keeps going anyway. So if that's what we mean by habit, then what do we mean by ritual? And in a lot of cases, when you bring up the word ritual, most people go immediately to religion and religious context. And no nonsense spirituality. I know she's on TikTok. I think she's on YouTube as well, and other social media places. Britt was talking about a study that was done in Japan around sort of a minimum viable thing as a way to frame the idea of ritual, separate from there having to be supernatural thing, and that there are benefits to ritual separate from whether or not you believe in something greater than yourself being the solution to it. And the example that this university in Japan did was they took a bunch of students and had them write something and then gave them negative feedback on it, like strongly negative feedback. And then some of the students were told to basically keep the piece of paper in a file on their desk. So not necessarily like out and visible, but they kept it. And then a bunch of others were given various methods of disposal. So some of them crumpled it up and threw it over their shoulder. Some of them ran it through a shredder. Some of them just threw it in the trash. But that physical handling of the piece of paper that had the negative feedback on it in a way that was symbolic enough to be getting rid of it was the basis of what we're talking about when we talk about ritual here. And they then followed up later. So they asked folks in that moment, like when they got the feedback, how angry are you about it? How resentful are you about it? And then they followed up a while later, and the folks that shredded it, threw it away, threw it over their shoulder, all pretty much had a reduction in their anger, or it was completely gone. Like they'd gotten over it and they weren't even thinking about it anymore. And a lot of the people who kept it in that file on their desk were more angry than when it originally happened. And that gets at some of the power of ritual and why you might want to do it. And so having heard that a while back, it's been in the back of my head to wonder where ritual might be able to supplement the checklist version of a habit that ADHD folks have, and might together help encourage the behavior that you want. And one of the behaviors that I started with was daily, or at least weekday, journaling on the typewriter. And that was some of the ritual here. So my current ritual for journaling on the typewriter is that it is the first thing that I do after I have gotten a hot beverage and my breakfast prepared. I come down here with my breakfast, set it off to the side. I put a vinyl record on the record player and take the typewriter down. There's stationery that I made. I got 32-pound cotton paper, designed a thing in Photoshop as the stationery, printed so I have paper that is specific to this task. Take the typewriter down, put it in. Every single journal entry starts with the date, and every single journal entry is 1 page long. Now, eventually I may change that to a different, but I fill one entire page, and the last thing that I type is EOF, which is the computer code for end of file. It's a weird tech thing. In all caps. And that's the ritual. And then to that, I'm working on adding a leather cover for the typewriter so that there is more ritual to taking it down, removing the cover, setting it aside. And then I'm also going to take the stationery, the blank pages, and the filled out pages. So right now the filled out pages are sitting tucked in between there. but I'm going to take the filled out pages and put them both into a leather folio. And the leather folio is going to be, the left side is going to be the blank pages, the right side is going to be the filled out ones. And once there is a month's worth, so the beginning of the month, another ritual is added, which is to take all of the pages out, put a binder clip on them, and move them to an archive folder, right? And this sounds like over the top, but that's the point of some of the ritual stuff, which is that by having dedicated things and spaces for doing something, you can get the psychological benefits and reinforcement, even if regular habit formation doesn't work terribly well for you. So I've been doing that one. And then there's another one that I want to do, which is related to that writing, which is that I want to get back to writing fiction regularly. And at one point, back in like 2017, 18, I had started establishing a habit by which I was trying to do a little bit of what I now recognize as more ritual, of leaving the in-person office that I was working at, and then on my way home, I would stop at the public library, get a semi-private space to sit, and I would write for 30 minutes. And then I would pack up and I would head home. And so I've been thinking about how I can do that again, but I was doing it with just a regular laptop. And that brings in a thing about this ritual stuff that the typewriter has really made sort of helpful in clarifying my thinking on, which is that the general purpose devices in our lives, our phones, our laptops, are not conducive to ritual because they do too many other things. And so I wanted to figure out what I could have or build or make for that sort of on-the-go writing. I don't want to drag the typewriter around, but I would like to be able to go to places and make those part of the ritual of writing the fiction at least some days, which is a little bit different than this. Now, that may even just be on the porch here, but I want something that's a little bit more portable. And so I've been thinking about how to build, there are things I make out of wood and leather, and was thinking about boxes that I could use. And I sort of settled on the use of a Android tablet, which can be put in kiosk mode with one app, and that's the only app that can be used on it, which would help make it a dedicated thing. And because it's all I would be using it for, there would be no other apps on it. I could lock it down, that kind of thing. And then a portable, tactile, like mechanical keyboard. And so I've been trying to figure out what kind of box to put it in. And then I saw a video from Adam Savage last week where he got, it was actually a thing he got for a Christmas present from his wife, which was this toolbox, this stamped steel toolbox made by Toyo in Japan. Really high quality, really well made. And Adam then spent the episode in sort of one of his one-day builds making a walnut wood liner for both the inside and the lid. And the lid had angles to, really interesting build. If you want to go see it, go look at Adam Savage's Tested channel. And from, basically the beginning of 2025, I believe, is when, because he got it at Christmas of 2024, this video on making this thing. And as I was watching it, Toyo is a company that I was unaware of, did not know about their toolboxes. And so I was curious what other kinds of toolboxes they make. And when I went looking, I saw a thing that made me curious about how it might relate to my project to want this portable writing workstation. And that ties to, if you go to Reddit and you search for the subreddit Cyberdeck, there are a lot of folks that make a thing that I'm kind of describing, which comes out of the cyberpunk neuromancer William Gibson kind of thing of before laptops were laptops, this idea of a portable computer with a keyboard and a screen and everything, but very retro in their approach to it. And when I saw the toolboxes that Toyo sells in a particular kind, that was not the kind Adam Savage had. It was a different, more of a flat briefcasey kind of thing, but a small one. And so I went looking, found most of the places did not have the white one, which is kind of the aesthetic that I really wanted out of it. Managed to find some on eBay in the white at actually a better price than most of the places that I'd seen the other colors available. And I actually ordered 2 of them because I might do something else with another one. And they've arrived. So this is the Toyo Toolbox 360. There's another one sitting behind me on the desk. But yeah, this is the toolbox. And you'll see, sorry about that, you'll see that it's got heavy duty latches. And it's got, a briefcase handle to carry it. And it's relatively small, right? It's not a giant toolbox. And then it opens up like this. And the thing that Adam Savage's video made me think about, and the getting of this that got me excited, was to effectively use wood and leather to mount padding into the bottom of it for things, but to put like a backup battery so I can charge the tablet and the keyboard off of a battery, but also then that could be used to charge my phone or anything else that I've got available. It would let me put additional ritual supplies in the toolbox, that if I wanted to keep like a little beverage in there or something like that, there'd be some room for that. And it being made out of metal, it's going to be heavy duty. It being a nice smooth surface, I can use the printer to make stickers and the Cricut to cut vinyl to sort of take it to another level as far as the look and feel of it. And all of that sort of came together when I had ordered these, and when they arrived today, I found one more extra piece that I was not expecting as a benefit, and that is that I was unaware that the Lenovo tablet that I bought for this project, which is this one right here, that the back of this thing is in fact magnetic. Or at least there's a bunch of magnets in here. And they're intended for like covers. So, you can put the folding folio kind of covers on these keyboards, all that kind of stuff. But it turns out that the magnets are actually strong enough in the tablet, because I was mostly trying to figure out, in this lid, is there enough room for the tablet to be in the lid that it doesn't have to sit in the base. And when I looked up the measurements on this, I wasn't sure it was going to fit, and it turns out that Toyo and their Japanese engineers are just wonderfully conservative in their measurements, in that the measurements they counted for the inside depth was sort of the most conservative way possible to measure it, and there's lots of room inside this thing. But I went to go just see how well this fit in the lid, as far as like how much space there's going to be around it and everything. And all of a sudden I felt the magnets kick in, because it actually holds it in place. Now, it'll fall if the lid is slammed too hard, which may mean that I have to build some additional like magnetic toggle things that hold it a little tighter. But I also might do something like line it with leather and put more magnets behind it. But the point is, it now today got me thinking about, since this thing is made out of steel, I can use a lot of magnetic stuff to hold things in place, to put them where they belong in this, to attach a platform for the keyboard to sit on. And the keyboard in question is actually this folding keyboard, this folding mechanical keyboard. So now my brain is buzzing with all kinds of ideas for what can all go in this writing ritual toolkit. And I'm excited to take a stab at it, because I had for weeks now been sort of dithering about exactly how to build the box part of it. And that was going to determine what I could even figure out that I could put in it, what my options would be. And with this thing showing up today, these things showing up today, I suddenly have options, not just for this one, but I can build another kit for another activity. And I'm kind of excited about it. So that's how Ritual's playing out for me at the moment. And if you stuck around this long, I really appreciate it. And subscribe if you want to see what I end up doing with this thing, because I'm probably going to shut this off and start taking a stab at measuring leather and wood and figuring out exactly what I might want in this. If you've got a suggestion for what should go inside this writing kit for writing fiction, besides the keyboard, the tablet, and a battery, which are the bare minimum that need to be in there, let me know. And you can go look up those dimensions if it matters on the Toyo website. Again, it's the T360. It's in a bunch of colors. The blue is really nice too, but the white was really what I was kind of after aesthetically. So yeah, till next time, see what kind of rituals and similar kinds of things you can add to habit. And if you happen to be one of the people who's blessed with a functioning dopamine system that lets you establish habit in autopilot mode, enjoy that, because not everybody gets to, and many of us would really appreciate it if we had a functioning system like that. So yeah, have a great day, guys.